Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. It is Q&A Tuesday. Are you ready? I am totally ready. Now, if you're new to my channel, I am a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over a decade. And what I do every Tuesday is I take all of the questions from all the viewers, whether it is comments below on the videos or from emails or from my Instagram page. I take all of the questions and I put them in one episode, and we have our Q&A Tuesday. So if you have a question for next week's Q&A Tuesday, let me know and be sure to send me a message and I will include it on the list. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. But I hope that you've already hit that like button and share. If this helps you at the end, please share it with other people that you may know because it may help them too. All right, so let's get into the questions. The first question is, do you have to be a fast learner to become a CCS? If you don't know, a CCS is a certified coding specialist through the American Health Information Management Association. That's one of their credentials. It's not about being a fast learner. It is about understanding what you're learning. The speed is not important. The fact that you're grasping the information is more important than anything else. Don't sacrifice your learning just because you're trying to get through it really quickly. Medical coding is very complex. You have to remember something, and I say this all the time. We have to learn and know things that doctors know while never having gone to medical school. The vast majority of us have never been in medical school. So that's something that you have to remember. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, okay? So if you are looking to get into it and you just want to learn really quickly and just get your credentials so you can get your foot in the door, it's not going to happen. You still have to be able to pass the initial assessment wherever you're applying at, and you will have to take these assessments every time you apply because they need to gauge your knowledge base. So again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, okay? So take your time and learn, okay? The next question is, how long should I review the CCS exam, review for the CCS exam? So it depends on how you feel, on how confident you are. If you are doing a program, sometimes programs will be a year, sometimes they're 18 months. It just depends on what program that you're taking. Sometimes if you're going for another credential like a CCA, the programs run anywhere between 6 to 9 months. They can also run a whole year as well. So it just depends. With AAPC and their credentials for the CPC, it's a lot different. You would have to go to their website and check to see. But I believe their programs between 4 to 6 months. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that is the length of time that they have for their program. So that's just something that you have to check into. This is why I always encourage everybody to check both association websites, the two powerhouses, which is the American Health Information Management Association and the American Academy of Professional Coders. These are the two associations that issue medical coding credentials, and they are the ones that if you really truly want to be a medical coder, you are going to go through either one of those associations and get credentialed through them. As far as the other credentials, the CBCS and all that other stuff, I have never or have yet to see an employer asking for that particular credential. I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. All I know is when they are looking for medical coders, they are looking for one of the two association credentials. They're looking for credentials from those two associations, okay? So that's just something that you have to be aware of and do your research, okay? So that answers that one. I've heard you mention Zoom conference. What is this for? So I do have Zoom, the conferences that I do, or calls or whatever, Zoom meetings, but it's for tutoring. If you are interested in one-on-one tutoring with me, as far as like asking me in-depth questions about like particular medical coding scenarios or something like that, guys, you have to remember that yes, I don't mind answering questions, but when you're asking very specific questions about a specific scenario, I have to have time to sit there and actually look at it with you. I'm not going to be one to give you some quick answer and just blow you off. That's not how I am. Even when I'm answering questions, my answers are very detailed. So I'm never just going to blow you off. And so for that reason, we have to do a tutoring session, and I have to charge for that, because the thing is, it's my time to actually sit with you one-on-one to make sure that you're understanding what's going on. So again, I don't mind answering questions, but when it comes to in-depth, like particular scenario questions or like mentoring, that's when I have to do a Zoom session. So if you're interested in that, then you can message me and we can discuss details, okay? I also have a Patreon page, and some of the levels on Patreon, and if you're not familiar with Patreon, it is a subscription service. It is like YouTube, but you sponsor basically the person that is doing the videos. So you would be sponsoring me. And with Patreon, I do a lot of coding quizzes, and I talk about my personal life. I talk about just different things about medical coding. So it's like YouTube, like what I do on YouTube, but amplified, more amplified about me and things like that. And like I said, I do a lot of quizzes on there as well. So and I do critical thinking exercises. And like I said, some of the tiers, because they have different tiers for membership, and some of them include one-on-one tutoring. So just if you're interested, check it out, and I will leave the link for my Patreon down in the description box below. So thank you very much. The next one is, during your audits, how do you present your arguments? So what the viewer was referring to is whenever I get audited, because all medical coders get audited. And what that means is when you are coding, everything that you do within a certain frame of time, whether it is during a month or whether it is during a quarter, your lead or your supervisor or somebody in data quality will take a random sampling of all the records that you've coded, and they will double check to make sure that they are being coded correctly. If you are missing something, or if they don't agree with the codes that you have selected, a good auditor will give you all of the information as far as how they got their answers. Now, I say a good auditor because not all auditors are the same, okay? If you have a really good auditor, you can learn from this auditor. And it's not that they're picking on you or they're trying to make you look like you don't know anything. That's not the case. These are measures of data quality that have to be met. And in order for coders to get raises or bonuses or anything like that, you got to make sure that you're accurately coding, because not all coders are created equally. And not all coders are going to have a strong grasp sometimes of what they're doing. And so sometimes if they're just entering in whatever they see and not really giving it a whole lot of thought, there's a lot of revenue that can be lost, or there's a lot of incorrect information that could be being selected as far as like the diagnosis codes or the procedure codes. So in order to keep that from happening, you'll have somebody who does an audit for you. And if they say that you have this incorrect, they're usually telling you why it's incorrect. But if you feel that if they are incorrect, you feel that they're incorrect, what I do when I'm presenting an argument is I will bring my reference, whether it is a dictionary or a printout from a reputable website referring to that particular condition or that particular procedure code, and I will show it to the auditor and tell them how I am correct, because they do give you a chance to review your audits to see if you agree. And if you agree, then you correct whatever mistake it was and then you move on, but you learn from it. If you disagree, that is when you have to go and present your argument. Now, presenting your argument can go one of two ways. Either you present your argument very well and the auditor agrees with you, or you present your argument and the auditor still tells you that you're perhaps reading it wrong, or maybe there's another interpretation or another way of looking at it. So it's all going to go back to that. So it's just going to depend. But this is why I always say you have to be prepared with your arguments. If I'm going to tell an auditor who has years of experience and a whole alphabet after their name that they are incorrect, I got to bring my A game. I can't just say, oh no, you're wrong, I'm right, and that's it. I can't do that. I have to show and prove How did I get that? How did I get that evaluation and management level? How did I get that procedure code? How did I get that diagnosis code? How did I get this combination of codes? What is it that I found, or why did I pick up this diagnosis or whatever? So that's what happens when you are making an argument. So it's pretty well straightforward. You're basically showing your evidence and your proof of how you got to that. And if you can't, and if you say that's the way it's always been done, or Sue, Jane, and Sally said to code it this way, that is not a valid argument. You have to have something to support what you coded or what you selected, okay? And sometimes they may find an error that it was just a slip of the finger. You know what I mean? Like you're entering in the codes and it was just a slip of the finger. Sometimes it happens. And in that case, you just correct it and move on. You take the error and you move on. And don't get offended by them. Yes, it does get aggravating. I will say that. It does get aggravating, especially when you get mad at yourself because you're thinking, why did I make that mistake? That was such a stupid mistake. Don't get after yourself too terribly bad. I mean, it does happen, yes. And it is aggravating, of course, but it is a part of the learning process. And whenever I do get audits with my supervisor, we we have a history of going back and forth with each other. And because of this, she knows that whenever she tells me that I'm wrong on something, that she's got to make sure that she's ready, because she says, you are one of the only ones who actually brings all of this information to support your argument whenever you tell me that I'm wrong. So that's what she tells me. And so I said, well, I mean, I tell her, it's like, I have to make sure that I bring my A game, because I know you got your A game going, so I got to bring my A game. And she just laughs at me. But it's true, you know what I'm saying? And so there is a mutual respect because of that. And because of that, you want to make sure that you're not taking advantage, and that you are, when you are presenting an argument, you are being as professional as you possibly can. You don't want to bring emotion into it. There's times when auditors are wrong, and when you're telling them that they're wrong, they get offended, and that's on them. Their response to you is on them. That is essentially not your problem, especially if you are correct and if you're showing that you're correct. But again, you just have to be as professional as you possibly can. I mean, it's going to happen. We're all humans. So, but yeah, that I'm going to leave it at that. So yes, but that is how audits go. I will probably do a video about audits probably next week. I'm working on making sure that I have a schedule out for you guys, so that way you guys know what's coming up and what's next. And I'm going to try to get better with organizing the videos, so that way you guys can just sort of select whatever you need, whatever information you need, before sending questions in. If there's already been a video on it, it's just much easier to see the video. All right, next question. I read an online recommendation that someone who aspires to be a direct coder should prepare for and take medical billing only jobs in the beginning. This recommendation stated that you would gain experience in the medical office setting and would give you experience in becoming familiar with codes. Is this true? So I've always said that if you can't get a job right away as a medical coder, being a medical biller is a good place to start. Here's the thing about medical billing. You do not have to be certified to be a medical biller. You do not have to have a medical coding credential to be a medical biller. Yes, there are specific medical coding credentials geared towards billing. I know now that AAPC has their CPB, Certified Professional Biller. Yes, you can get this. However, like I said, you don't have to be certified to be a medical biller. When I think of a CPB, a Certified Professional Biller, I'm thinking of somebody who owns their own business and does medical billing on their own, and they have their own practice. Some people do it. Some people will just be medical billers, and they do cold calls to different doctors' offices and see if they can do the billing for them. I mean, there's people that do that. And So I would think it would be useful to have that credential if you're doing that particular thing, if you're being a medical biller actively like that. However, if you are wanting to be a medical coder, you get your medical coding credential, either the CCS, CCA, CCS-P, CPC. If you get any of those, or if you have a degree like the RHIA or RHIT, if you're getting the CPB, and you're not really going to be a medical biller other than just in the beginning because you're trying to get your foot in the door, it doesn't sort of make sense to me to get it. However, if you have your reasons for getting it, then by all means. But I'm telling you guys that the more that you are getting all these other credentials behind your name, the more continuing education units you're going to have to earn to maintain those credentials. So that's just something that you need to be aware of, okay? Because sometimes people think that oh yeah, it'd be a good thing to have this whole huge alphabet after my name. Yeah, it looks nice, it's impressive, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you have experience to back up all those credentials. And again, you don't have to be certified to be a medical biller. So that's the only thing. Being a medical biller will give you some sort of like background, like in medical, if you can get a job right away as a medical coder. It's a good practice, like in looking at the codes and things like that. You're not actually applying codes. You're more processing the paperwork. And keep in mind that the education for medical billers and the education for medical coders is technically different, because medical billers are basically working with the insurance companies and processing paperwork, whereas medical coders are looking at the documentation, they're actively applying codes, and they're actively applying, procedures and things like that. So there's a huge difference there as far as like knowledge base goes. So that's something that I need you guys to be aware of as well. If you want to start off as a medical biller, that's fine. You don't have to put yourself on necessarily a schedule like you have to go for 2 years to be a medical biller and then you can be a medical. No. Just continue to apply for medical coding jobs, okay? And keep knocking on those doors until you find somebody that will hire you. And if you just happen to be a medical biller that time, well then okay, but you can, but you don't have to. It's not mandatory. It's just a recommendation. And whenever somebody is recommending something, it's just what's another word for recommendation? It's just it's an idea that you can do in order to get in. But yeah, that's pretty much what that is. You don't necessarily have to, but if you want to, by all means, go for it, Okay, next question. Do all hospitals use the same software and encoder? So what they mean is like Epic. Does every hospital use Epic? No. Every hospital does not use Epic. Some use Cerner, some use Meditech, some use HBF. There's a bunch of different softwares for when it comes to the electronic medical record, or the electronic health record, whatever you want to call it. So there's many different options. And the reason that there's so many options is because not every facility is the same. A rural hospital is not going to need the same bandwidth as a major metropolitan hospital or a conglomerate of hospitals. They're not going to need that same thing. So it's just going to depend on the facility. A lot of times when they say that for medical coding, when they say, we will train you, when they say we will train you on the job, what they mean is they will train you to use their software. They're not going to train you to do medical coding because they already expect you to know how to medical code because you have your certification. Okay, unless you have an entry-level job position, then yes. But if you are, doing on the job, if they say there's on the job training, they're usually referring to teaching you how to use the software for that facility. And so that's where, you'll gain experience that way. And as far as like the encoder goes, again, I'm sure there's different ones out there. The main one is 3M, okay, and it is really good. It's good software. I do have a video where I'm demonstrating it, so if you want to check it out, I will probably link it up in the cards. But it's just a demonstration, just showing you guys kind of what it looks like and how to go through it and things like that. But it's I mean, it's really cool. I like it. It's got a lot of references on it, which is very helpful when you're trying to select the code. But yes, not every hospital is the same, and not every hospital is going to use the same software. So just something to be aware of. And then the next question is, and I think this is the last question. Yeah, because I'm already 20 minutes. All right. I saw that companies were moving away from providing laptops and other equipment and using other resources to secure PHI. Oh no, I have another one. What is your take? So not all companies will issue you a laptop or a computer. Some will give you a whole desktop computer. They'll send it to you. Some will send you a laptop, and some will have you use your own computer, and then you just log into their system. It's just going to depend on the company, whoever's, doing the hiring or whatever. But if you're looking to get into medical coding and you want to do it because you immediately want to be a remote medical coder, it's not going to happen, because you have to have experience as a medical coder first before getting a remote coding job. And the reason is manyfold. But the thing is, you have to have experience because when you get out in the real world, right, and you're learning medical coding in school, okay, and don't get upset, okay. I every time I say this, I always get an upset email. Don't get upset, guys. I'm telling you this for a reason, because it's the truth. I don't make the rules, okay? If I did, new coders would be hired every time, okay? They got it right out of school. But I don't make the rules, okay? This is the thing. When they want you to have experience is because book coding and real world coding are two different things. When you get done with school is, you're going to have the benefit and the beauty of working encounters that are from a textbook. So they're going to be those softball encounters. They're going to be the ones that are really easy, or they're going to have all the information. They're going to be beautifully written, and it's going to, tell you step by step how to do it. Then you get on the outside, okay, and you got some Yahoo doctor who does not do things the typical way. They'll do it whatever way they want to, and they're going to document whatever way they want to, because nobody ever trained them. So because of that, they say, well, I'm going to do it my way, and their documentation is all over the place. And it's not until they meet a good high caliber medical coder that they can change their ways, okay? It's all about a partnership, and I always talk about creating a partnership with your providers because of this reason, okay? So because of this is why they want you to have experience before you start working remote. Because when you get on in the real world on the outside, you're gonna have questions like that. And trust me, it's not gonna be easy your first go round. It's never easy your first go round, okay? But I say this in the most gentlest way that I possibly can. I am upfront, and I will not sugarcoat, because I don't think it's fair to sugarcoat anything. People sometimes they get in this field and then they have all this stuff come at them at one time, and they're like, what the heck did I get myself into? No one ever told me this. I'm telling you now. This is the way you know, okay? Because it's a rewarding field, it's an exciting field, but you really have to have, you really want to be around veteran medical coders when you first start. So that way, in case you do have any questions, you're going to be able to be surrounded by people that you can ask, okay? So I'm just saying, all right? And then the last question is, how do you think the pandemic will affect medical coders? So I am going to be doing a show about this on Friday. Friday will be the episode about the future of medical coding, or the outlook on medical coding as I see it. But for the most part, when it comes to these kinds of things like the pandemic and things like that, we are in a golden opportunity here, because We are the ones that are looking at all this documentation. We're the ones that are submitting these codes. These codes are used for this data that is being reported and is being used for statistical reasons and research and things like that. So because of this, it's really going to shine a light on medical coding. And I've gotten a lot of emails lately, and I think this is because this is why, you know, people are thinking of switching careers, and, you know, maybe, you know, they've been in a profession that is, you know, on furlough right now. So, I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why. This is a very good field, but it's a very good field for studious, detailed people. And I will keep saying this, and because it's the truth. You know, you really do have to be paying attention to detail, especially when you do this field, because this is not a game. These people's medical records, this is very serious stuff, you know. So I'm going to talk more about this on Friday, obviously, but this is a good time to get into medical coding. Of course, I think so. I will always advocate for medical coding. That's just the way that I see it. And but like I said, I'll talk more about it on Friday, and I will go ahead and wrap this one up because it's getting long, and sometimes it will stop on me, and I don't want it to stop on me. So did I answer any of your questions? I hope I did. And I hope that, you know, this gave you some insight, you know, on different topics. But yes, if it helped you, I hope you'll share it. I hope you give it a thumbs up. And if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all on the next video. Bye!